So everyone is talking about AI, everyone is talking about generating images, everyone is talking about editing images with AI, but how does this actually work? By the end of this video, you will know what an input is and what an output is, and how all these work together as a single piece of work. That's it, let's get started. We constantly hear all these things like, oh, I got a fantastic result, or I did it right and it gave me this. We need to think about as if all the things that AI is giving you is outputs. And in order to get those outputs, you need to get inputs. So the way this works, imagine like when you go to a vending machine and then you insert a coin, you select your product and then you get something. So when you are inserting the money in the vending machine, it's like if you were inputting something. So you're inputting a credit card, or you are inputting a coin, or you're inputting a note bill. And then you make a choice on the algorithm of the computer, and then the vending machine is gonna give you a product. So the way this works is very similar, and I've just used this analogy for you to understand what an input is and what an output is. So basically, when you are generating images, you need to input some kind of data, some kind of information on this side, and then that information or that data will get processed in the middle, and then as a result, you will end up with an output. So once that we are clear in what's an input and what's an output, we can start understanding which type of inputs exist in order to get different type of outputs. And what happens in the middle is all the AI. It's all the platforms that are available out there in many types of industry and also with different levels of complexity. Let's go ahead and start discussing the four main types of input in order to generate AI images or in order to edit them. The first type of input that any AI user needs to use to get an output, it's called text. So in this part you have text right here, and based on this text that you are gonna type, you're gonna get an output. So here's where the basic example comes, and someone will say, a beautiful garden on the coast, coming close to the sunset with beautiful palm trees. So that is your text input. And then you're gonna type that and you're gonna send it to a platform. As we already say, there are a ton of platforms available. And that platform is gonna interpretate the text that you've given it, and as a result, it's gonna give you an output. And if the platform was good enough, you will end up with a result or with an image that it's very close to the type of text that you input. So you feed the algorithm with text, then that text gets processed, gets understood, and as a result, you end up with an image that reflects your text. So that is the first type of input. And I really want this video to flow, and I don't want to give you so many details, so we will flow straight into the next type of inputs. Another type of input can be a drawing, and this drawing can be just a simple PDF with some line work of a house, with some line work of a garden, and basically you have this input and you feed it into the platform, and then as a result you're gonna get a colored drawing or a rendered drawing of the same input. Usually these type of inputs are combined with text. So for example, you will have an input that is a cat drawing just recently drawn by someone, but at the same time you're gonna have a very simple text that says watercolor. So when you are feeding this drawing to the platform with the text of watercolor, that is your input, that drawing and that text. So you're inputting that drawing and that text into the AI platform, and as a result you will get an output, and that output will be the same drawing in that colored style that you just typed in the middle of the process. So that is the second type of input, which is basically a drawing combined with a piece of text in order to get the same drawing with the characteristics of that text. I hope this is making really sense, and let's go ahead and keep talking about this, because as soon as you start understanding how this works, you will be able to operate in any given platform on the internet, because this is the way all of them works. The only difference is that the inputs become more complex and more complex. Now let's go to the next type of input. And the next type of input can be an image, just simple image. So basically, imagine that you have an image from your last holidays in Paris, where you took a beautiful photograph of yourself in the Eiffel Tower, but you want to remove all these noise background people that is appearing right there. So as an input, you will fit that picture into an AI platform, and inside the platform, you will be able to use selection tools, you will be able to use editing tools to select all that noise, and inside the platform, you will be able to control what you don't want to see in that image that is your original input. And as a result, you will get the output with your photo of the beautiful holidays without all the background noise. So basically, this type of input is just basically images, and those images get edited. And these tools can vary depending on which type of platform you are. Some platforms are very complex and have a super wide variety of tools and solutions, but some of them are just very simple and the capabilities are different in between all of them. But the basic concept here to understand is that you are just inputting an image, and based on that input of an image, you will get the output of your same image with some kind of edit, with some kind of addition, or with some kind of tweak that was processed in the middle, in between the input and the output. So far we have covered the first input, which is text, then we have covered drawings, combine it with text, and then we have covered images as an input. The input number 4 is not very different from the 3 previous ones. It's basically all the inputs combined in a more complex way. And let's put it simple right here. So I guess that by this point of the video you already understand what is an input and an output, and this input number 4 is basically all types of input combined in order to get an output that relates to all those inputs. Let's craft together a very simple example. So imagine that you're working on a project and you have this proposal for landscape that is so good. It has footpaths, it has a pavilion, and many features. You're gonna combine that input with some kind of text, and the text is gonna provide more information of the things that you want to get. So this text could be something like a contemporary urban intervention in the middle of an urban area. So you have that text prompt, which is an input, then you have the drawing that is another input, and also you're gonna provide the model with an image to take as reference. And based on all these 3 inputs, you're gonna feed them at the same time or in different times to the AI platform, and after all those get processed, you will end up with an output, which will be basically the design that you just worked on with all the adaptation to the reference, but also with the style that you wanted to get. Input number 4, to put it very simple and straightforward, it's as many inputs as you can combine in order to feed them into the platform and to get a very complex output. Now we need to understand that machines are learning all the time, and each time you input something into a platform, it remembers that you inputted that, and basically you're making them faster and more creative with the pass of the time. In so many platforms, once you get a style, that can be saved and then it can be used for a new input. So for example, if one time you inputted the drawing of a garden and then you put as a reference some kind of image of a garden that you like it, then it got processed and the result that you got was fascinating, then you can use that output as a reference to work with a new fresh piece of work. So outputs can become inputs again, because this is like an endless cycle. You get an input, it gets processed, you get something nice, and that is something really nice, you can use it again because it's a good reference to start from zero again. So it always gets better all the time. And that is all about inputs and outputs. If you have this concept clear in your head, you're gonna be capable of understanding the little science behind all of this. Of course, we need to be aware that there is a lot of mathematics and a lot of algorithms behind this, and this is just a very simple and basic approach so everyone can understand how it works. Did that actually make sense for you? I hope this was useful and that you have learned something new. If you liked the video, consider subscribing, and I catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.